going to work at a law firm like Linklaters in London as a first job, like I said, very intimidating. But I don't know, a lot of the soft skills. So for example, at law school, they don't really teach you how to write an email to a client or how to deal with local counsel in foreign jurisdictions or how to put together a Bible of documents. All those things that you kind of, I guess, just have to learn on the job. It's a great experience. And I think, so this is one thing I always say to students who are, kind of at law school and looking to do something, whether working at a law firm or going to a company afterwards, is, you may think that you want to do something and you may think you know how to do something, but then when you actually are in an office environment or in a work environment and doing it day to day, it could be, chalk and cheese. And so it's very important, I think, to get that work experience to really hone your skills. A lot of law firms offer what they call client secondments. So, you get to go work at a client's office for 3 months or 6 months or something. If you're listening to this and you're a private practice lawyer, I would highly recommend taking up one of those client secondments. Not because you're trying to get ahead in the, up the ladder or, impress your bosses or anything like that. It honestly is so helpful for you to understand what your clients actually want. So Law Ninjas, it's got there's a lot of stuff that I could talk about, but again, limited on time here. So I guess in 2017, when I said that I moved from being a private practice lawyer at Mayor Brown to being an in-house lawyer at KFC Pizza Hut, I realized very quickly that I didn't know anything about tax or employment or all those things that you're meant to know as an in-house lawyer. And so what I did was I set up a small WhatsApp group. So I called it Law Ninjas. And I added 9 or 10 of my in-house lawyer friends who were in Singapore and Australia and India. And I sort of used it as a way for me to be able to ask them questions about all those things that I didn't know. It then just kind of, I guess, took a life of its own. Some WhatsApp groups kind of do that sometimes. People started telling their friends, adding their friends, exchanging job opportunities, asking like legal questions, talking to each other and networking with each other. And it just kind of grew and grew and grew. And so now, fast forward almost 5 years later, we're now a community and a platform for a few thousand lawyers and law students around the world.
I just have one last question.
Sure.
Since you're an entrepreneur and you're sort of managing and handling a lot of things together, what are the 3 pieces of advice you might have for somebody who's trying to start up as a legal entrepreneur?
Legal entrepreneur. The first thing is, it doesn't have to be perfect. So we all have ideas, right? We'll all be sitting with a group of friends, or we'll be sitting on the couch one day and we'll say, hey, actually, why hasn't anybody thought of this? Or why haven't we done this? Or why don't I do this? And you'll have those ideas, which are great. First thing is, please write them down, because a lot of the times, you kind of think of something and you forget about it the next day, or you sleep and you forget about it in the morning. So for me, one of the things I do is whenever I have an idea for a meme or anything else, I always put it on my phone. Like I always put it as a calendar reminder, as a note or to-do list or whatever, just because I know I'm going to forget it. So that's one thing, is always just keep track of what ideas you have. And secondly is implement those ideas. And then maybe another tip for a legal entrepreneur is, instead of coming from a place of pride or fear or both, try and come from a place of love and humility. So, rather than saying, oh, I'm going to fail, I'm going to do this, just be humble and say, look, yeah, I'm probably going to fail. Okay. I'm probably going to be rejected. This is not going to work out. I'm going to make mistakes, but that's fine. Look, if you don't do anything, then you're not going to make a mistake anyway. Right. But I think that's part of the fun and the journey and learning and this.
Hi, Rohan. Thank you so much for taking out the time today and for doing this interview with Prolawgue.
Thank you, Shreya, for having me.
All right. So for everybody, Rohan is the founder of Law Ninjas, and what Law Ninjas really is, we'll speak about more in detail as part of the interview. He's also been a lawyer with Magic Circle Law Firms and is currently working as a lawyer with Westpac, which is one of the big 4 banks in Australia. So yeah, Rohan, let's start at the very, very initial part of your journey. So how did you decide to do law?
How much time do we have? I think, initially I wanted to do quite a few things as a kid. Like I wanted to become a tank commander in the Indian Army. I wanted to go into advertising. I thought of a few things, and then I kind of settled on law. It was more a process of elimination. So I said, I can't handle blood, so I can't be a doctor. Can't do all that crazy math stuff that engineers do. I don't really like science. And so, yeah, law was pretty much the only thing left. No, but seriously, though, both my parents were lawyers. I kind of looked at what they were doing. I looked at, what their peers were doing, and it just kind of appealed to me. And then obviously, just like most other lawyers out there, I got into it by reading John Grisham thrillers, watching a lot of legal shows and movies on TV. And so, yeah, it was a combination of factors.
And after law, you started working, you worked as an associate with Linklaters as well as Mayor Brown. What was it like working at these really, really big firms?
So my first job after graduating from law school in Sydney was with Linklaters, which is one of the Magic Circle, or the leading law firms that are headquartered in London. And so I flew to London and did a contract with them and moved around with them to a few places. What was it like to work at Linklaters? It depends. It depends on the office and the team you work with. So, for example, the London office is the headquarters, so thousands of lawyers, huge building. And then I worked with them in Moscow, which is a much smaller office, smaller team. I worked with them in Tokyo, smaller office, smaller team. Worked with them in Singapore, similar size to Tokyo. And so I think in terms of, and Mayor Brown, I worked in their Singapore office, which is a very small office. I think back when I was there, it was probably less than 10 lawyers in the office. Now it's grown quite a lot since then. I think working for Linklaters, Mayor Brown, any sort of leading international law firm, I think the first thing that really hits you is the quality of the work and the clients. I think that's really impressive when you look at it. So that was really great, sort of working on big deals, and a lot of the deals that you kind of read about in the newspaper, you get to be a part of, which is kind of cool. And also the second thing that hits you, I guess, with an equal punch is the quality of the people and the lawyers that you get to work with. They're all, I remember when I joined Links, this was September 2008, which is also the same month that Lehman Brothers went bust. So the global financial crisis started when I started my career. I remember just being really intimidated when I joined Linklaters in London, because I was part of a batch of 60 trainee solicitors, as they call it, who had just joined. And pretty much, I think 55 out of those 60 were from Oxford and Cambridge, with like a little bit from other law schools. And the other 5 were maybe like from Australia and India and stuff. So yeah, I just felt really intimidated. But I think very quickly you sort of prove yourself through your work and through, your interactions with people. And I think it was a great experience for me, and Mayor Brown as well, leading law firm. And the one thing I think that really sets apart a good law firm from perhaps a not so good law firm is not the clients and the work and the people, but it's actually the level of training that they give you. Because I think, and I'm very passionate about giving back to the legal community. And so I feel like if a law firm trains you well and gives you the skills that you need, I think that's a great thing. So I think a lot of law firms need to spend a lot more time, money, effort into doing that, because it's not only a great retention strategy of keeping the people who are in your firm, but also a great recruitment strategy of bringing in people into your firm, because then you can tell them that, look, we've got this amazing training program, we've got these amazing precedents, join us, and you'll get to learn what it is to be a great lawyer.
That's a very interesting point you bring forward. I'm trying to go back a little bit. What do you think were the things you weren't really trained well on in your law school, and what was that differential in skill set that you felt when you joined the law firm?
I think in law school, so I went to law school in Sydney, so it's different to, I guess, law schools in other countries and cities. I think probably going to work at a law firm like Linklaters in London as a first job, like I said, very intimidating. But I don't know, a lot of the soft skills. So for example, in law school, they don't really teach you how to write an email to a client, or how to deal with local counsel in foreign jurisdictions, or how to put together a Bible of documents. All those things that you kind of, I guess, just have to learn on the job. And then obviously, as you go through it, you learn negotiation, you learn communication skills, you learn, how to people skills, relationship building skills, all those things. So yeah, it's a great experience. And I think so. This is one thing I always say to students who are like kind of at law school and looking to do something, whether working at a law firm or going to a company afterwards, is you may think that you want to do something and you may think you know how to do something, but then when you actually are in an office environment or in a work environment and doing it day to day, it could be, chalk and cheese. And so it's very important, I think, to get that work experience to really hone your skills.
I see. And so then you pivoted from law firms to in-house. What really motivated that move? And how are the two things different in your experience?
Yeah, so I worked at Linklaters for many years and I worked at Mayer Brown. And then in 2017, I decided that I wanted to move into the world of being an in-house lawyer. And to be fair, like what motivated me, few things. Firstly, my dad was an in-house lawyer for most of his career. He was with Pepsi and Nestle. And again, I saw him as a inspiration, a role model, a mentor. And whenever I would sort of see him, he loved his job. He loved, all the stuff that he used to do in his job, and he loved his people and his team. And so I wanted to sort of do that because I think when I was at a law firm, I wasn't as excited about my job as he was. So I said, something's missing here. And so I always wanted to be an in-house lawyer, I think right from the very beginning. But then I applied for quite a few roles during my initial years as a private practice lawyer. And then people would sort of give me the feedback that, look, you need to do at least a few years as a lawyer at a good law firm. So you get that training, so you figure out how to do these things. Then when you go in-house, you'll be much better equipped and you'll know kind of what to do. Because in an in-house role, you don't typically get the same level of training as you would at a good law firm. And so I had to bide my time. I had to wait, and I had to wait for the right role as well. And so in 2017, I found this role on LinkedIn for a job at Yum Brands, which, to be fair, I hadn't really heard of before 2017, but I think everyone knows them as KFC, Pizza Hut, and Taco Bell. And so, yeah, I moved into this world of fast food, which if anyone's thinking about it, do it. It's very exciting. What is the key? I think your second part of your question, what are the key differences between the two, in-house and private practice? I think private practice, it's pretty intense, right? I mean, if for anyone who's worked at a law firm, you got long hours, you got, clients to deal with, you got bosses to deal with, you don't have control over your time really, right? Because you could be sitting there on a Friday afternoon with, thinking everything is good. And then suddenly a new deal comes in or a new agreement comes in that you need to draft overnight or over the weekend. So you don't have control and you can't really say, oh, sorry, I'm going home now, depending on the culture of the firm and depending on the person you're working with. So I guess control over your hours and everything is a big factor. When you go in-house, I'm not saying that in-house you're not going to do any work and it's going to be pretty chilled out. It's still hard work, but typically you have a bit more control over your day and over your hours. So if something does come in, you can kind of say, oh, look, do you really need it by tomorrow morning? Maybe can I get this to you by next Wednesday? Or, you kind of get to manage other people's expectations with a bit more control. And also, depending on your budget as an in-house team, you can kind of outsource the hard stuff or the big stuff to the law firms where, you really don't have the capacity or the, the time to be able to do something. So I think that's quite key. And then obviously when you're in a private practice role, let's say you're a corporate lawyer or a banking lawyer or a project finance lawyer, you typically end up sort of becoming a specialist in one thing. So whether it's corporate or banking or project finance, but when you go in-house, you're kind of not really unless you're like joining an in-house team as an employment lawyer or as an IP lawyer. If you're just joining them as a legal counsel or as a general counsel, you're meant to kind of know a bit about most things. And to be fair, like when I moved in-house, I didn't know a lot about a lot of things because I had just been doing banking and finance and project stuff most of my career. And so when people were asking me about employment issues and tax issues, I'd be like, I don't know, I'll come back to you. So it kind of is a big sort of change for sure. And the other thing is, when you're in an in-house role, you're typically a lot closer to the business, right? Because you're sitting in an office where your clients are not somebody who's sitting in different cities, different countries. They're your team, they're your marketing team, your finance team, your business development team. And so you got to make sure, firstly, that you know them, and you know what their pain points are and what kind of keeps them up at night. And you got to know also, I guess, how to build relationships with them and so on. And that's something that appealed to me about going in-house. Is I wanted to be closer to the business. I wanted to know why a deal came about, what happened, obviously, when I was working on it. And then after the documents are all signed and everybody's kind of had that celebration dinner, what happens to that merger or the acquisition or that deal after that. And as a lawyer at a law firm, I only got to see like a certain part of that journey, whereas in-house I got to see the whole thing, which I think, for me at least, was more exciting.
You talk about working with various other teams and various other business stakeholders when you're part of a company, right? So what kind of learnings did you have from their working and their processes and their priorities that lawyers may be missing out on if they only continue to work in a law firm?
Yeah, I think, a lot of law firms offer what they call client secondments. So, you get to go work at a client's office for 3 months or 6 months or something. If you're listening to this and you're a private practice lawyer, I would highly recommend taking up one of those client secondments. Not because you're trying to get ahead in the up the ladder or impress your bosses or anything like that. It honestly is so helpful for you to understand what your clients actually want. Because when you're a private practice lawyer, at least when I was, I would spend so much time like drafting these beautiful emails with grammar perfect, and format my Word documents so that there was not a single double space anywhere. Like, spend so much time doing these things, and then when you actually send it to the client, they may or may not want all that. They may not want perfect. They just want it like done and clear and concise. And so I think, I think client secondments are really helpful and good to do. But to answer your question about what did I learn about my stakeholders, I think, one thing is that lawyers think quite differently and communicate quite differently sometimes to non-lawyers. And so, you and lawyers, we're all trained to be, good at attention to detail, good at grammar, good at, all that stuff. But when you, and very logical sometimes as well, the way we set things out, like if this, then that kind of things, right? But when you speak to somebody in finance, or when you speak to somebody in marketing, they think quite differently to us. I'm not saying it's better or worse, but it's different. And so you just have to kind of figure your way out and sort of understand how it all works. Because for me, when I was at KFC, Pizza Hut, Yum, as I mentioned, I did a couple of years as a lawyer. And then I said to them, actually, this is great. I've learned so much about the business, but I want to learn even more about the business. So I want a secondment within the company to the marketing team. And so they said, that's never been done before in the history of this company anywhere in the world. What? So I said, no, I want to do this. I think I can add a lot of value and I'll learn a lot. And then when I go back to my legal role, I'll be able to add, a lot of great insights from my time in marketing. And so I did that, and they thankfully and kindly gave me that opportunity, and that was amazing. And then actually it led to a role in the operations team as well. So at one point, I was doing both marketing and operations, which was kind of cool, and no law. And so then I learned a lot about how the restaurants run, how the marketing is done, how the menus are structured, and so how food delivery works, all these things that you would never obviously get to understand just being a legal counsel. And so, I think you really need to step into the shoes of your clients to understand what it is they actually want and how they think in order to be able to provide them with the best service.
Great. I'm going to step back a little bit to what you said in terms of, having more autonomy on your time when you're working in-house. I'm wondering what your thoughts are on the billable hour model.
Oh, controversial. I mean, I actually think the billable hour model it has its flaws. I can see obviously why it is the way it is, but it has flaws. So for example, when you look at it you have to look at it from different perspectives, right? From a firm's perspective, yes, you got to keep track of time. You got to, bill a certain amount of hours on a matter so that you can charge clients a certain amount of dollars. Like, I get it. And, it is what it is, right? You could do it on a success fee based model where, you're only paid like a fee once the deal goes through. You could be paid a fixed fee so that billable hours don't actually matter. You could do a few things, but, from a firm's perspective, I get it. From the lawyer's perspective, it's kind of broken, the model, I think. Because as a lawyer, right, you're told, okay, in most firms, you're told, you have to hit 1,600, 2,000 hours, let's say 2,000 hours, just make it a nice round number, a year. And so you go, wow, that's a lot. And it has to be billable time. It can't be like, marketing, business development, because that's not billable in most cases. And so you say, all right, I'm going to have to hit these hours, which means I'm going to have to hit a certain amount of hours per week. And you kind of break it down in your head and you're like, wow, that's a lot of work. So you kind of work, like I said, you start drafting these beautiful emails and doing all these research memos and everything where, you're spending way too much time on this thing, when in fact you could do it in a lot shorter amount of time. So it's broken in the sense that you're incentivized at a law firm as a lawyer to work longer hours just so you can hit your targets and get your bonus at the end of the year. Because that's the other thing, right? You want to get a bonus. And so, but from a client's perspective, if you look at it from the third perspective, which is the client's perspective, it's tough. I've hired lawyers myself for my own personal matters. And it hurts when you get that bill at the end of that month or that quarter, and you can see their narratives and, you can see all the hours and minutes they've spent. I don't know, it's not the best thing. I think it would be better from a client's perspective if firstly you asked me straight up how I want it done. Do I want the beautiful research memo, or do I just want you to give me a call, or do I just want you to send me a WhatsApp message with, whatever the answer to my question is? And I also want you to, I guess, be very clear about how you're going to bill me, how often you're going to bill me. Please bill me often rather than waiting like 2 months and then hitting me with this massive bill, because those heart attacks, they're pretty serious. It's happened to me. And so I guess that's quite important. But yeah, the billable hour model, it's something that's quite, it's not great. Hopefully things will change. Maybe somebody smarter than me will come up with a better way to do it. And I know there are alternative legal services providers who are doing it differently and doing it on like a fixed sum basis or success basis or a percentage basis. But yeah, it's an interesting one.
All right, great. I also understand that you're an investor at Thursday Ventures, which funds early stage startups in tech, biotech, and clean technology. So, how does investing work, and how did you get here? How did you started looking at startups from being a lawyer and then, in fact, being engaged in marketing and operations? How did this shift happen?
So I've always been interested in the business side and obviously the legal side. And just to clarify, actually, Thursday, which you may have seen on my LinkedIn profile, it's a dating app based in the UK. So it's kind of like Bumble and Hinge and Tinder, but the cool USP, the unique selling point, I guess, that they have is they only operate on Thursdays. So if you access the app or the website on any other day of the week, it doesn't work. And so at midnight on, I guess, Wednesday night, midnight, it starts working. And so you can, meet people, match with them and everything and message them. And then at midnight on Thursday night, so 24 hours later, everything just wipes away from the app. And so I guess their sort of idea is that they want people to, match, meet, talk to each other all within the space of a day. And it seems to be doing really well. It's only in the UK and in New York at the moment, but they're still growing. So anyway, to answer your question, though, I mean, to invest in companies, you need to have money. I don't have a lot of money. And so, but still, I saw this opportunity on LinkedIn, and the founders of Thursday are very active on LinkedIn and they do some amazing marketing and amazing posts. And so I just had to be a part of it somehow. either give me a job, guys, or let me be a shareholder or something. And so they didn't give me a job, but they let me own a few shares. And so I think for anyone who's looking at doing that or looking to get into the investment side, obviously do research, obviously speak to the founders, obviously speak to everyone, because on paper, a company may look really good and you may think, oh, wow, the numbers all add up and the branding is cool and the name is cool and everything. But when you speak to the people, you might get a really weird vibe, or you may think, oh, actually, this is not really where I want to go. So you have to, you have to do your DD or due diligence on anything. Yeah.
So when you're picking this, right, like you mentioned that this sort of caught your eye, what were you really looking for? Were you looking at the vision? Are you looking at the tool? Are you looking at the founding team? Like, what are the driving factors for you?
So I think with any company that you're looking to invest in, try and step into the shoes of the customer or the user. And so what I did was I downloaded the app, I sort of used it myself, I looked at how the sort of UX or UI was, the interface was, what was the user experience like. And so it all kind of made sense. Again, when you're looking at a company, let's say you want to invest in, I don't know, a soft drink manufacturer or something, and you actually go out to a supermarket and you buy the soft drink and you taste it and it's terrible. So you're not going to invest in it, right? Similarly, with an app or a company, if you speak to the people and you don't get the right feeling, or if you use their product or use their service and it's not good, then so you have to kind of just do it and feel how, step into the shoes of the user or customer, I guess. But sometimes you just have to go with your gut as well. Like, numbers can tell you something, your meeting people can tell you something, but if your gut is telling you something else, then sometimes you should just follow it. For me, I still don't know if, my investments, whether in Thursday or other things, are good ideas or have been good ideas. But fingers crossed that I'm able to, in a 10 years, 20 years time, I can just retire and sit on a tropical island, living off my investments. But we'll see.
Oh, well, good luck with that dream. Speaking of startups, you are running something called Law Ninja. So just walk us through what that is, how it started, and what is it trying to do right now?
Yeah, no. So Law Ninjas, it's got there's a lot of stuff that I could talk about, but again, limited on time here. So I guess in 2017, when I said that I moved from being a private practice lawyer at Mayor Brown to being an in-house lawyer at KFC Pizza Hut, I realized very quickly that I didn't know anything about tax or employment or all those things that you're meant to know as an in-house lawyer. And so what I did was I set up a small WhatsApp group. So I called it Law Ninjas. And I added 9 or 10 of my in-house lawyer friends who were in Singapore, in Australia, and India. And I sort of used it as a way for me to be able to ask them questions about all those things that I didn't know. It then just kind of, I guess, took a life of its own. Some WhatsApp groups kind of do that sometimes. People started telling their friends, adding their friends, exchanging job opportunities, asking like legal questions, talking to each other and networking with each other. And it just kind of grew and grew and grew. And so now, fast forward almost 5 years later, we're now a community and a platform for a few thousand lawyers and law students around the world. We run workshops and webinars, and we get a lot of these guest speakers from around the world, including, for example, the global general counsels of PepsiCo, of Prada, of Delivery Hero, which is the world's biggest food delivery company, Airbnb. So they've all spoken at our webinars. And all the webinars we've done so far that have been kind of, open to the world for anyone to attend have been free. And I think one of the key sort of missions of Law Ninjas, if I can call it that, is to level the playing field within the global legal community. Because, I've, as part of all of these webinars, I've also conducted about 48 workshops for law schools around the world. So 48 law schools around the world, including, India and Afghanistan and Pakistan and Nigeria and the US and the UK, all mostly virtual. I did manage to squeeze in a couple of in-person ones in India, and then COVID happened, and then since then it's all been virtual. And during those university sessions, a lot of students, the questions and the comments they used to make were, oh, Rohan, I'm a first generation lawyer. I don't have anyone who's a lawyer in my family. How do I get into this legal industry? Because it seems like everybody needs to know somebody. Or somebody would say, and this is not just India or places like that, everywhere, like Nigeria, Kenya, and so on. And so then the other question was, I don't go to a NLU, a national law school. I don't go to a top tier law school. How am I meant to compete with everybody? Those kids who are going to those good law schools, they are the ones who get the best jobs and the best opportunities and the best know-how. And so, so Law Ninjas, I guess one of our missions is to level the playing field so that a kid sitting in a classroom at a law school that you've never heard of in a country that's, a developing economy, has the same access to contacts, to information, to videos, to webinars, to articles as a more fortunate kid sitting somewhere in the Western world. And so that's been kind of a driving force. And I think we're doing a good job, but, they've got a lot of plans ahead. We've just launched a global internship program. So we're bringing on 6 interns from around the world who are starting on the 2nd of May, which is very exciting. And then we're launching an app in a few weeks' time. In fact, just before I jumped on this call, I was working on the app, and which is a very long and arduous process, but it's fun. And then we're also organizing a conference for general counsels in Delhi in a few months' time, in collaboration with one of the biggest media companies in the world, where there's a lot of stuff going on. But I guess to answer your question, why did it come about? First was this WhatsApp group and me asking them questions. But actually, another reason is, look, these webinars and workshops and soft skills training and all these things, that only kind of started last year, or like kind of middle of COVID. And why it came about, or one of the reasons it came about, was actually my dad, he was working at PepsiCo as an in-house lawyer, and he retired in 2016. And so when he retired, his plan was not to stop working, because I think that would have driven him crazy and my mom crazy. He set up a business in Sydney to provide soft skills training for lawyers. So he wanted to teach lawyers all the things you don't learn at law school. So like drafting and speaking and negotiating and all those things. And he set up the business in Sydney. He got the website, he got the trademark, he got, the company name, all of that done. And then before he could launch it, he passed away in late 2017. And so this idea of doing all these workshops and soft skills training is kind of his. So I've just borrowed it, combined it with the Law Ninjas community, and tried to make it global. And so one of the key things we do is 10% of any profits we make from venture go towards funding scholarships for law students around the world. We haven't made a profit yet, but I'm hoping this year we might get there. And so that's one thing. And then also, just giving back to the community. And so a lot of the lawyers who form part of the Law Ninjas community, like I said, are very senior general counsel, some of them, in-house lawyers, some of them private practice lawyers, and so on. A lot of them are very passionate about giving back as well. And so that's been really great.
Great. And you mentioned the scholarship. I remember reading that something's already been floated. Perhaps if you could walk us through it. Sure.
So I think, what has it been now? We've done it 3 years in a row. So this would be the 4th year that we run it. It's a scholarship in our dad's name, his memory. And so it's called the Parvez Bilimoria Global Award for Legal Excellence. And it's essentially pretty simple. It's not one of those complicated procedures where you have to do 20 million things to apply. Any student, whether it's an undergrad or postgrad law student, anywhere in the world can apply. You don't have to send your CV or cover letter or anything like that. You just have to send a 2-minute video summarizing kind of why you think you deserve the award and sort of what you're going to do in the future. And we run it, like I said, 3 years in a row. The first year, the winner was a law student in India. He is so inspirational. His name is Maitreya. He's from Gujarat. And in addition to being an amazing law student and lawyer and everything else, he was actually blinded at the age of 15 or 16 when he was hit by a cricket ball on the head, and he went progressively blind. And so, despite all that and all those, adversities and all those things that he's been through, he's decided to, so for example, if that happened to me, I don't know what I would do, but I'd probably just say, oh, wow, what am I going to do now? But he's kind of turned it into a strength where he's fighting for disability rights, and he's become this really strong voice for people who've been through similar circumstances as him. So, he was inspiring. And then the second year, I was a law student in Nigeria, Everestus, who's super inspirational. And then the third year was a law student also from Nigeria, this lady who, is just doing so many different things in so many different spaces, especially around violence against women and so on. And so it's a $5,000 award. So it's simple cash prize that we give out. And so it's been really great. I think, again, giving back to the community is really, really important for me and for Law Ninjas, I think. And so hopefully we'll keep doing it for many years to come.
Great. And just going back to Law Ninjas, it's a very interesting name. So how did you come up with that?
So I actually posted about it on LinkedIn a few days ago. It's not completely my idea, to be fair. So I have cousins elsewhere in the world. I have cousins in Canada and Switzerland and other places. And so we set up a WhatsApp group. See, WhatsApp is what's caused all of this. So we set up a WhatsApp group for all of us cousins to kind of stay in touch with each other, because, we're all at different ages and different places and so on. And so my cousin in Canada, Ashwin, he named it Disco Ninjas. I don't know why. And I've asked him why. And he's like, oh, random things go through my head once in a while. And this was the random thing that went through his head. So Disco Ninjas. And when I saw that name, I laughed. I thought it was really interesting. It doesn't make any sense, but I just thought it looked and sounded cool. And so that kind of always stuck in my head. And then, so that was in 2015, I think. And in 2016, I was living in Singapore. I was a lawyer, and I was also a big foodie. So I am a big foodie. And so I wanted to set up, not a social network, but I wanted to get all the foodies in Singapore together and sort of, meet them, go out to restaurants and bars and try new things and everything. And so I set up something called Food Ninjas. And so we organized a few events. It was really great. And it's still going, but not very active. And then in 2017, like when I moved to KFC Pizza Hut, I said, I have to call it Law Ninjas. That's the best name possible. So and the feedback I get from people whenever they hear the name is that it is quite distinctive, particularly in the legal industry, because, to be fair, and people have said this to me and I've thought about it as well, I probably would make more money and be more successful if I had called myself something association or something .org or, one of those official sounding names. But that's not me. And also, I think that wouldn't be true to what we're trying to do, which is stand out from everybody else. And one of the things which you may have seen, Shreya, we do on LinkedIn is we do a lot of memes. We do a lot of interesting stuff on LinkedIn. And LinkedIn, you wouldn't typically see memes, right? Because it's all full of inspirational and job-related posts. But we send a meme about Will Smith and Chris Rock, or we'll do something about Batman. And so it just kind of cuts through everything else that's going on in the world. And it hopefully, and the feedback has been that it kind of just makes people, relax a little bit when they're scrolling through their LinkedIn news feed, or makes them laugh a little bit. Some people have said, memes dilute your brand, or they kind of take away from what your brand's trying to say. But actually, for me and for Law Ninjas, I think, and this position may change once I bring on investors and marketing people and so on, fingers crossed in the future. But right now, I think memes are a great way for us to firstly cut through all that LinkedIn noise that you see around you, and also look, one of the biggest demographics for law ninjas is young lawyers and law students around the world. And memes are one of those things that just kind of appeal to my generation, I think, and definitely the next generations as well. So it's something I feel quite strong. And law ninjas, I don't know if you've seen our logo, but it's the Lady Justice, holding the scales in one hand and the sword in one hand, which is quite a dry, boring logo if you think about it. But actually, we've turned her into a ninja because usually the blindfold is covering her eyes, but in this case, it's a ninja mask and it's a ninja sword. And so, we've kind of tried to play around with a few things there. And so far, so good.
Great. So what is the plan for Law Ninjas? Because you mentioned there's a lot that's cooking. What can you share with us at this moment?
So yeah, I think the global internship program that I mentioned, that's something that's obviously new. It's the first time I'm running it. And so I want to see where that goes. I'd love to make that a ongoing, because the first batch is there for 3 months, starting on the 2nd of May. I would love to do, more of them maybe 3-month cycles. We've just brought on 2 sponsors or partners who are SpotDraft, which is one of the world's leading legal tech companies, and they do things like contract automation and electronic signings and so on. We've also brought on Barbary, who are one of the world's leading legal education providers. So if you're looking to do a bar exam in New York or California or somewhere in the US, Barbary are the leader in sort of providing you with the training and the sort of course prep for that. They've also got the UK SQE or UK bar exam course prep. So they're 2 great partners. We're bringing on a few more partners in the next few weeks who you'll see on LinkedIn and Instagram very soon. And yeah, the app that I mentioned, that's something that I think will be really exciting. I can't say too much about it. But it will have quite a lot of features built into it, designed to help lawyers and law students. And then we'll see. Maybe my interns will come up with some really crazy ideas and brilliant ideas, which I hope they do. And we'll see where we go. But I think at this stage, and I've got to be transparent, Law Ninjas, all the stuff that's been going on, all the webinars, all the memes, everything, it's kind of been like me so far. And so I'm really excited about bringing on these 6 amazing students as interns, because I think then, they'll be able to do a lot of the work I've been doing. I'll learn the art of delegation, which I think is a key skill we all need to learn. And also I'll be able to kind of maybe focus on the higher level strategic stuff that I should do more of. Because to be fair, I have I don't know if every business owner does this, but I have like a list of ideas and things that I want to do and I'm going to do, including my LinkedIn post that I post once in a while. I have written some like a long time ago and I just haven't posted them, just because I'm one of those weird perfectionists. I need to be comfortable with whatever I put out there before I put it out there. And so yeah, it'll be nice to go through that list and actually like start crossing things off, because at the moment that list has been going for 2-3 years now, and I'd love to, rather than it keep growing, I'd love to whittle it down a little bit. So we'll see how we go.
And I mean, speaking of LinkedIn, you're a sensation on LinkedIn, and you have like some almost 30,000 followers. What is your personal branding strategy? How did you start, and do you have any advice for somebody trying to leverage LinkedIn?
Yeah, I don't know if sensation is the word I would use. I'm definitely active on LinkedIn, that's for sure. But thank you. I think I'll start adding sensation to my LinkedIn headline. I think the one thing, to answer your question about how can somebody, use LinkedIn in a more effective way, I think the first thing is, and a lot of students and lawyers I've spoken to, particularly in smaller nations or more developing nations, don't even have a LinkedIn profile or don't know about LinkedIn and its, amazing sort of features. So the first thing is, if you're not on LinkedIn, you should open an account. You don't have to post anything. You don't have to do anything. Just post, like put a name, put a photograph, put your sort of, career background, just fill out the general form, open an account. and then just start seeing what's going on, because there's lots of jobs out there. There's lots of people out there who are posting some really interesting things. There's a lot of groups you can join. And yeah, so it's useful to know what's going on in the legal industry. If you're a lawyer, law student, what's going on in your country, what's going on in your region. And yeah, you just get to sort of see what's going on. And speaking about the jobs thing, I think that's really important, because for me, I got my job at KFC because I saw an ad on the LinkedIn careers page. Similarly, some of the other jobs I've got have also been on LinkedIn, or I've met people through LinkedIn who've kind of, helped me get certain positions and roles. And so I think it's it's a great platform, and I don't know where I would be without it, or where Law Ninjas would be without it. And so I guess the one piece of advice that I give to a lot of lawyers and law students is, if you're not visible, you're invisible. So what I mean by that is, and this is not just a LinkedIn thing, it's a social media. It's even if you're sitting in a classroom, if you're not visible, if you're not putting your hand up, if you're not saying anything, if you're not on social media, if you're not posting or liking or commenting or something, then you're effectively invisible. And so if you're invisible, then nobody is going to pay any attention to you. That it's quite brutal when I say it out loud, but it's true. And so I feel like you should be more visible. And if you want to build your brand, you have to figure out firstly what you want people to know you for. And then once you figured that out, then you start doing what you want to do. So for example, if you're listening to this and you're like, I want to be a banking and finance lawyer, and that's what you want your brand to be, because you want to be a partner or a head of a law firm one day, then you have to kind of cultivate that. It's not going to happen overnight. People overnight are not going to say, oh, wow, yeah, I know so-and-so and he or she is a great banking and finance lawyer. You have to kind of firstly connect with people who are in that industry, at banks, at law firms, at finance organizations. Then you have to kind of see what's going on. And then one thing I say is, you don't have to write original content, because that's quite tough a lot of the time. But what you could do as a sort of a first step is you could share somebody else's article or a recent judgment or a recent piece of legislation that's passed in the banking and finance world with a couple of lines about what you think about it. Or maybe you could even take out an extract from that article and put it in your sort of post, just so that people start seeing you as somebody who is interested in it, who's, knowledgeable and passionate about it, so that when, say, for example, somebody thinks about banking and finance, they will think about you because they've seen your posts. They've seen that, I remember that person, they did a lot, so let me reach out to them. Or alternatively, if you're applying for a role, or if you're, having a conversation with someone and, let's say the interviewer sees your CV and says, oh, I remember you posted that really interesting thing about that thing. And, oh, yeah. So you've already formed a connection with somebody, even though you haven't met them or you don't know them, right? So I think that's quite important. So for me, to answer your question about what am I trying to do, I post about pretty much anything. I think there's a lot of legal, I don't want to call them influencers because that word sometimes have a negative connotation, but I'll call them legal influencers for the purposes of this. Out there, they post only about one topic. So there'll be one guy posting only about legal tech and what he or she thinks, or there'll be somebody posting about advice for lawyers and law students, and that's all they'll do. They'll just keep doing it day in, day out. For me, look, I came up with a name like Law Ninja, so clearly I like to do things slightly differently. And so, yes, I post, tips for lawyers and law students. I also post about legal tech. I also post about mental health, which I feel very strongly about as a topic that nobody's, or very few people seem to talk about on LinkedIn. I post memes, as you've seen. I post about my family, my dad. So I try and keep it quite varied. And to be fair, LinkedIn is pretty cool, by the way, when it shows you all the analytics. It shows you how many people have seen things, how many people have engaged with things. And some posts, when you put them out, they will work. People will see them and they'll like it, or they'll, they'll resonate with it, or they'll, find something relatable in it. and some posts will not work or do something differently. So you just have to kind of experiment as well a little bit, because something you thought would be good or people would like or people would relate to may not be. And so you just have to kind of ride the waves. So one cool thing that LinkedIn started doing recently is they show you the amount of impressions or views and engagement your posts have got over a certain time frame. So if, say, for example, if I look at my last 365 days, my chart looks like this. More on the lower scale, and then there'll be one thing where people will really sort of relate to it, and then I'll be like kind of dead for a couple of months, and then something else. So you just have to kind of play around with it and have fun with it as well. Don't make it like Facebook, obviously, too much. I mean, look, posting about your family and stuff is fine. I do it, but don't do only that. Like, I think mix it up a little bit, keep people on their toes. I think that's what people want to see as well. They don't want to see just that usual motivational, inspirational kind of advice-y preaching type of stuff, because nobody likes to be lectured as well. And my two rules, which actually I should do a post on LinkedIn about this. The first one is, if any post ends in da 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 da, they'll write a whole story or something, and then they go agree ? At the end, I unfollow them straight away, because that person is trying to get engagement and likes. And yes, the other thing a lot of people, the three things actually. The second thing a lot of people have started doing is the LinkedIn algorithm. It works in mysterious ways, but not so mysterious ways. It has now, like, I'm sure it's changed even as I'm saying it, they're probably changing it. But polls, the poll feature on LinkedIn, it ranks very highly on the algorithm. So if you post a poll, you get a lot more views, you get a more sort of people seeing it. And so you'll see some people, and I've seen legal recruiters do this and some other people do this, they post polls like every week, and it's just stupid stuff, like not even relevant to their job or something. They'll just say, oh, do you like the color blue or green? Yes or no. Like, and they're doing it for a reason. And so I kind of try and stay away from, or unfollow people like that. And then the third thing is, and this is, I'm being really brutal now, but a lot of people post about their awards and stuff they've won, which is fine. I've done it as well. And I haven't won any awards recently, so I haven't had a chance to do it. But if I did, I'd probably do the same thing. But, they'll say the whole, like, I'm humbled and privileged, and I want to thank my father and family and friends and my bosses. It's okay. It's fine. Like, look, do it. I think it's great. As long as you don't just do that. Like, you only talk about the great deals you've signed or the great awards you won. As long as you mix it up and say, oh, actually, yes, I won this award. But then the next week you follow it up with like, oh, look at this amazing team I have. They did something. So, like, and now I'm kind of deviating a bit, but I think it's important to say, when I joined KFC, I was new. I was kind of just come from law firm life. And, at law firm, I'm the sort of fee earner, right? I'm the blue-eyed boy or girl where I bring in the cash for the firm. When you go in-house, you're not the fee earner anymore. You're the cost center or support function, right? The marketing, the business development, the sales people, they're the ones who bring in the cash for the company. And so I had to prove myself. I had to show everybody that I deserve to be there. I had to kind of prove it to myself as well, to show like, hey, actually, did I make the right move or not? And so I ended up saying yes to a lot of things, volunteering, public speaking, joining committees, all that stuff. And what happened was, although I thought I was doing a great thing and I thought I was being myself, the impression that people got around of me, let me say that again. The impression that people got of me in the office was that I was trying too hard, or I was trying to, get all the limelight for myself, which now that I look back on it, I think, yeah, that was pretty fair comment to make. And so my big boss at the time, the CEO of KFC Asia, who is now CEO of KFC Australia, he said to me in one of my appraisals, so like this is written down, everybody kind of looks at this thing, said, Rohan's great, he's done a lot of good things, but he needs to understand the concept of reflected glory. and full stop. And I was like, I don't know what reflected glory is. So I had to Google it. I had to speak to him. And so it turns out the reflected glory is essentially what I just said, where yes, okay, you can bring a lot of glory on yourself. You can talk about how amazing you are. But you know what's really cool is when you do it for others around you, when you do it for your team, when you do it for your juniors, when you do it for others that, you know, are in your network, whatever glory that they have then reflects back onto you in a way, right? Because if you've got a good team, that's a sign, or it shows people that, you know, you're firstly a good team member, you're a good leader, or whatever it is. So it's like a little sort of mindset shift, or a little shift that you need to do in your communications on LinkedIn and other places, but it makes a huge difference. And I'm not saying, you know, you should do it because you want the glory. I'm not saying that. I'm saying you just need to be mindful of these things, because unfortunately a lot of people post about themselves that are thinking, you know, oh, if I post about myself, then people will see me in a positive light. That means when I apply for my next job, they will think I'm a good lawyer and therefore I will get hired. Yeah, but you got to see it from the other person's point of view, where all they're seeing is this person just posting about all the amazing stuff they're doing. And it maybe takes away from the authenticity of who you are and who you are as a lawyer. So that's one thing I feel quite strongly about. So post about yourself, be humbled, be privileged, all that stuff, but mix it up. And that's something actually one of the very senior people at KFC also told me. He's like, the trick where I just said, like, do one post about yourself, but do another post about somebody else or something else. I think that's quite important. Yeah.
I sort of agree with you there.
That was a lot.
Yeah, I know at some level, LinkedIn does sort of really promote a lot of hustle culture, and not enough people talk about the journey that they've had to sort of tread to get where they have, and that's really offsetting expectations with what people think is achievable and what is not achievable, and the kind of effort that needs to be put in.
So if I might add to that, actually, so if you see, you know, that chart where I was talking about, you know, all the impressions that you would get, one thing that people don't do on LinkedIn enough is they don't talk about, like you said, they only talk about the good stuff. They don't talk about the bad stuff. They don't talk about the journey that much. They don't talk about the failures. They don't talk about the rejections. I try and actively talk about the bad stuff, because I want to kind of make people realize that, yes, you may see a lawyer who's successful, who's worked around the world, who's worked at great law firms and companies. But what you don't see is all the stuff that, you know, people like me and others have gone through to get to where they are, all the rejections they've gone through, all the mental health issues they've gone through. You don't see that, right? Because LinkedIn, you're meant to put your best foot forward. It's like going to church or a temple or something on a Sunday afternoon. You're going to put your best clothes on, right? You're not going to go and tell everybody about all the bad things in your life. You're going to put your best, you know, personality forward as well. So, and that's LinkedIn, right? That's social media, that's Instagram. You know, you see a post on Instagram and you see somebody's beautiful like holiday photos, and you're like, oh wow, I wish I was there. They look so happy, they look so, you know, it looks so amazing. But what you don't realize is all the lost luggage that they had on that trip, all the fights they've had as a group of friends. You know, you just don't see that. So what I'm trying to say is people always are putting their best 1 second of their day forward on these social media platforms, but actually there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes that you don't hear of. And I think people would really love to hear more about the real things, the failures and the rejections, because that's what you relate to. And so, yeah, like I said, so in my chart, I post about my successes, all the awards and everything, like, yeah, little. And then I post about a rejection and it goes like this. I think people just, they want to know that you're not this invincible person. They want to know that you're real and that you are just like them as well, which I am. I'm just like everybody else. I just post a lot of stuff.
I just have one last question.
Sure.
Since you're an entrepreneur and you're sort of managing and handling a lot of things together, what are the 3 pieces of advice you might have for somebody who's trying to start up as a legal entrepreneur? As a legal entrepreneur,
the first thing is it doesn't have to be perfect. So, okay. So like I'm not an entrepreneur, okay? My family as well, we're not really entrepreneurs. We're kind of salaried professionals. You know, my dad was a lawyer, mom was a lawyer. My uncle was an accountant. Like, we don't start businesses. We don't do weird things. Although my dad did start that business, but yeah. I think the first thing is, we all have ideas, right? We'll all be sitting with a group of friends, or we'll be sitting on the couch one day and we'll say, hey, actually, why hasn't anybody thought of this? Or why haven't we done this? Or why don't I do this? And you'll have those ideas, which are great. First thing is, please write them down, because a lot of the times, you kind of think of something and you forget about it the next day, or you sleep and you forget about it in the morning. So for me, one of the things I do is, whenever I have an idea for a meme or anything else, I always put it on my phone. Like, I always put it as a calendar reminder, or as a note or to-do list or whatever, just because I know I'm going to forget it. So that's one thing, is always just keep track of what ideas you have. And secondly is, implement those ideas. So for example, I had this idea for Law Ninjas. I could have just done nothing about it, right? I could have not started workshops. I could have not done anything, because it is effort. It is expense, because you got to, subscribe to the webinar software and all these things. You got to buy the lighting, even though I'm not using my lighting right now. I've got these lights and, background green screens and all this stuff. And so it's an investment of time, money, effort. And so you could just sit on the idea and do nothing. But I think the first thing is, look, it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be amazingly, all business plans set out, beautiful, all the, T's are crossed and I's are dotted. Just do it. Just start. Just do it. And then you hone it, perfect it as you go. It's kind of like, it's hard to describe, but I saw a photo of somebody, I think they posted on LinkedIn, actually, so no surprise, of somebody putting together a plane as it's kind of being, released from the top of a cliff. That's what starting a business is like. You just have to kind of launch first, and as you're kind of, figuring it out, then you'll figure it out and you'll start flying. And so for me, it's still not perfect. It's still not where I wanted to be, but it's something I'm learning as I go. I speak to people, I figure out what works, what doesn't work. And so just start. That's the first key to step to success. And then maybe another tip for a legal entrepreneur is let go. Okay. Yeah, this is the final thing I'm going to say, and I think it sums it up quite nicely. I think a lot of us, and this is something I learned at KFC, so I won't take full credit for it. A lot of us, most of us, we lead our lives from a place of pride and fear. So a lot of us are afraid of doing things because we're afraid of rejection, or what people will say, or, other factors, or, failure. And we come from a place of pride. So it's kind of linked together, where we have egos, we have, we're competitive, we're striving to be better than everybody else. And, there's all that internal and external struggle going on. But instead, what I think we should do, and this is something obviously that I don't do perfectly either, but I try and kind of tell myself to do, is instead of coming from a place of pride or fear or both, try and come from a place of love and humility. So, rather than saying, oh, I'm going to fail, I'm going to do this thing, just be humble and say, look, yeah, I'm probably going to fail. Okay. I'm probably going to be rejected, or this is not going to work out. I'm going to make mistakes, but that's fine. Look, if you don't do anything, then you're not going to make a mistake anyway, right? But I think that's part of the fun and the journey and learning and this. So be humble about it. Don't be egotistical about it. Be aware that you are going to make mistakes. You're going to break a few rules now and then. You're not going to be able to keep everybody happy. But yeah, just be humble through it, and also come from a place of love and sort of, from a good place is what I would say. So when you're a legal entrepreneur or anything, put all your fear, your pride aside as much as you can, and just do what you believe in. And if you believe in it, then people will come and follow you and subscribe to you and sort of buy into whatever it is that your idea is. If you don't believe in yourself and you come from a place of fear or pride, then it's going to be much tougher. You might still succeed. You might still do very well. You might still raise many rounds of funding and, come on the cover of Time magazine. But I think you have to be true to yourself. Firstly, I want to grow this thing a lot more than it is right now. It's not even close to where I want it to be. And I think there's a lot more we can give to the community and give back. But also, you just have to I guess, come from a place, good heart, everything, which I think is important. And so, yeah, I think that's what I'm going to end with.
Sure. Thank you so much for taking the time today, Rohan. And thank you for being so candid with everything that we've spoken about, and being so real, and being at the same time, I would say, even vulnerable to an extent, because you shared a lot of personal stories with us today. And yeah, thank you once again for taking the time. We'll put a lot of things in the description, including the link to Law Ninjas, all the socials, the scholarship we spoke about. And if you think there's anything else, we can also add that to the description link as we go forward. And yeah, thank you once again.
Thank you so much, Shreya. And I guess, one, just coming back to your last question about what are the key things piece of advice I would give. This is not just for legal entrepreneurs. This is for lawyers and law students, or anybody really, and this is not an original quote. It comes from Dale Carnegie, who, has taught things like public speaking and all these other things. So what Dale said was, it is more important, and I'm paraphrasing here, it is more important to be interested than it is to be interesting. So what I mean by that is, unfortunately, again, like LinkedIn and conversations and social media, we are trying way too hard and spending way too much time trying to make ourselves look interesting. But that's not what we should be doing. What we should be doing is being interested in what other people are doing and what other people want. So, when you're speaking to a client, rather than trying to make yourself look like the best lawyer you are, be interested in what they're going through, what challenges they're having, and try and then help them through that, or give them some advice if that's what they need. And so it's more about not focusing on yourself, but focusing on the other person. And when you focus on the other person, all of that stuff will reflect back on you. So yeah.
Great. Like I said, thank you for that.
Thank you.